because she has always been strong and stubborn in front of herself. When will she appear like this? Injured and soft. This kind of Jiang Xianer made Chu Tianxuan feel for a moment that Jiang Xianer had something wrong with her. Why does the patient Jiang Xianer is taking care of make him feel very familiar, as if he had seen this woman a long time ago? But when Chu Tianxuan thought about it carefully, he couldn't remember where he had seen the woman. This made Chu Tianxuan fall into deep memories for a time. Tianming saw Chu Tianxuan staring in one direction and couldn't help looking in the direction of the ward along his line of sight. Why is she here? Tianming saw Jiang Xianer's appearance in the ward and couldn't help asking. Chu Tianxuan faintly took back his sight and said, "Go and investigate her relationship with the people in the ward and the identity of the woman." After that, Chu Tianxuan didn't look at Jiang Xian's son inside anymore, and left directly with Tianming. Although Tianming wondered why Chu Tianxuan cared so much about an assistant who had been dismissed, he didn't say much and secretly wrote down Chu Tianxuan's orders. Jiang Xianer, who has been taking care of his mother in the ward, didn't realize that Chu Tianxuan had just looked at himself. Her only concern now is when her mother's illness will get better, and her job should start looking for it as soon as possible. After all, now her mother's medical expenses are money, and the expenses of the whole family are a lot of expenses. She must share more for her father. "Xianer, you came to see me today. Don't you have to go to work?" Jiang's mother on the hospital bed looked at Jiang Xianer lovingly. Although she was ill, she still couldn't hide her once charming face. Jiang Xianer quickly took back his thoughts and smiled at his mother every day. "It's all right. I'm not busy for a few days, so I came to see you. Don't worry." Jiang's mother nodded at ease when she saw Jiang Xian's son say so. Thinking that Xianer was originally the baby in their hands, but now she has to go out to work and struggle hard for this family and her body, she feels sad. She hugged her woman in her arms. And Jiang's mother sighed. "It's hard for you, my baby." Jiang's tears couldn't help flowing down. Seeing this, Jiang Xianer quickly took out his handkerchief and wiped his mother's tears. His face was worried. "Mother, I'm fine now. I'm fine. Don't cry." Jiang Xian's son tried to comfort his mother, and his mother's sadness gradually faded after coaxing her for a long time. Seeing his mother's sleeping face, Jiang Xianer only felt very powerless. If his mother really knew that she had been dismissed by Chu Tianxuan, I'm afraid she couldn't accept it. Therefore, she must find a better job than her last job as soon as possible, make her mother and father look at her with new eyes, and make Chu Tianxuan regret firing herself. Tianming's work speed is always very fast. Just the next day, Jiang Xianer's identity and the woman's identity have been investigated by Tianming. Tianming takes a file to Chu Tianxuan's office and puts the data in front of Chu Tianxuan. "All you need to know is here," Tianming said, but there was a little resistance on his face. Seeing that Tianming was like this, Chu Tianxuan was already used to it and didn't bother to pay attention to him. He directly took out the document and read it. The contents of the document were not many, so Chu Tianxuan didn't read the document in a few minutes. But the expression on his face was the same as Tianming, always revealing so much thought-provoking. "That's all." Chu Tianxuan took those thin sheets of paper, motioned to Tianming and said. Tianming nodded noncommittally. "That's all. I didn't expect Jiang Xian's past to be so simple." Tianming then slanders himself in his heart. It's not a great surprise to see Chu Tianxuan's mysterious expression. You know, even when he just saw this document, his expression was much richer than that of Chu Zhou. It is very clear from the file that Jiang Xianer, the only daughter of the Jiang family, whose father is the chairman of the Jiang Group, is now on the verge of bankruptcy because of the financial crisis, and the woman lying in the hospital bed is Jiang Xianer's mother. Now she is seriously ill and spends a lot of money in the hospital every day. Because the Jiang family is now facing bankruptcy and her seriously ill mother, Jiang Xianer has to come out to find a job, which is why she came to choose family. Chu Tianxuan put down the document and knew Jiang Xianer's current difficulties. For a time, it was not why. Instead, there was a feeling of great sympathy in his heart. But just these contents, in his intuition, Chu Tianxuan always felt that there was something missing. But he couldn't capture it. Chu Tianxuan paused, looked up and asked Tianming, who was still standing opposite, "Have you investigated the identity of Jiang mother?" The morning came to think of it and quickly said, "I've investigated, but there's nothing unusual. It's just that an ordinary woman has been in love with her husband. Only this year did she find out that she was seriously ill." Chu Tianxuan nodded and didn't say anything more. He secretly felt that maybe he really wanted more. There was a long silence in the office. When Tianming thought Chu Tianxuan no longer needed him, he heard Chu Tianxuan quietly say, "Let Jiang Xianer come back." When Tianming heard this, he was about to leave. He looked at Chu Tianxuan in surprise. He was very confused, but he didn't dare to say more. Isn't Chu Tianxuan himself going to dismiss Jiang Xianer a few days ago, and now he wants her back? President Chu is really getting more and more confused. Tianming could only think so, but he didn't dare to show anything on his face. He had to respectfully ask, "Do you need me to invite her back in person?" "There's no way." President Chu asked him to dismiss Jiang Xianer at the beginning. Although Jiang Xianer had left before he began to act, he couldn't help feeling in his heart. Chu Tianxuan shook his head and said directly, "Go down. I'll deal with this matter." Tianming heard the speech and breathed a sigh of relief. When he left, he had some meaning of running away. Chu Tianxuan was the only one left in the office. He was still holding the information of Jiang Xianer in his hand and looked at it. On the data, Jiang Xianer's photos of his youth were printed on it, which made Chu Tianxuan couldn't help looking more. He just felt that he had only seen such a sweet smiling Jiang Xianer once. When he was stunned, Chu Tianxuan quickly pulled himself out of this moment of inattention, and didn't let himself have a different mood. Chu Tianxuan found Jiang Xianer again, just because he sympathized with Jiang Xianer's experience. After all, he has always heard of the changes of the Jiang family. But he doesn't know that Jiang Xianer is the daughter of the Jiang family, and he resolutely came out to solve the family crisis when the family changes. Chu Tianxuan felt that few people can be so strong to face everything. But Jiang Xianer has always been cheerful and optimistic to face all this, so he had to admire him very much. Thinking of this, Chu Tianxuan took out his mobile phone and dialed Jiang Xianer. Jiang Xianer on the other side of the phone didn't expect Chu Tianxuan to call himself. He hesitated for a long time before answering the phone. "Jiang Xianer, I now order you to return to the company." Chu Tianxuan said straight to the point. There is no doubt that it is still that overbearing tone. Jiang Xianer's hand holding the phone couldn't help shaking for 3 minutes. He was stunned. For a time, he didn't know how to reply. Chu Tianxuan even took the initiative to call himself and let him go back. Obviously, he took the initiative to talk about his dismissal. "What do you mean now?" Jiang Xianer's stunned kung fu, Chu Tianxuan on the phone repeated unhappily as if he had lost his patience, "Jiang Xianer, can't you hear me?" "Yes, just." "Is that true?" Jiang Xianer was flattered and said. He didn't understand why Chu Tianxuan wanted to find himself back. When I don't count, I'll come to work tomorrow. Chu Tianxuan hung up the phone and ignored what Jiang Shener had to say. Looking at the hung-up phone, Jiang Shener was stunned for a moment. So she was admitted back. The next morning, Jiang Shener got up early and even woke up earlier than usual. Yesterday, Chu Tianxuan said that she didn't know if it was true to let her go back to work. She can't miss any chance to find a job, even if he had to bully him when he went back. Jiang Shener wanted to go back to Shengtian to work. Her mother's illness still needs a lot of money, her father's company is also in danger of bankruptcy, and she can't sit idly by. She also knew that she was too stupid before she was despised by her boss. This time, she must keep up her spirit and never be driven out again. President, I'm downstairs. Let her come up. Tianming reports the situation of Jiang Shener. Chu Tianxuan leaves when he hears her name and puts down his work. Let her come up. He was still expressionless and said forcefully. Tianming immediately brought Jiang Shener up. He also knew the situation of Jiang Shener's family and how important this job was to Jiang Shener. You have to be flexible when you talk for a while. You are a woman. You should know how to speak to make people more acceptable and cherish opportunities. Tianming specially ordered Jiang Shener, although he couldn't understand why the president would find the woman back. This was not what he would do at all. Thank you for reminding me. I see. Jiang Shener knew what Tianming meant. Chu Tianxuan was kind to her because he could come back to work here. Tianming sent Jiang Shener to the office and didn't go in. Chu Tianxuan explained that he had something to talk to her alone. Jiang Shener took a deep breath, knocked on the door and went in. After what had happened before, she faced Chu Tianxuan alone, which made her feel a little uneasy. President, thank you for letting me come back to work. Thank you very much. Jiang Shener expressed her gratitude to Chu Tianxuan as soon as she went in. Everyone can't avoid the current situation in their family. He can still find her back. She will remember this kindness for a lifetime. Don't thank me. Tianming helped you. He knows about your family. Come and advise me not to dismiss you. If you want to thank him, thank him. Chu Tianxuan just wasn't used to people thanking him all the time. He didn't know what to say, so he put all the things on Tianming. What he would do was his own thing. Dawn? After listening to Chu Tianxuan's words, Jiang Shener felt even more strange. She had no relatives with Tianming. Why did he help her? Just now they came all the way, and Tianming didn't mention it at all. Does Tianming still want to be a hero behind the scenes? And how does Dawn know about her family? The strangest thing is Chu Tianxuan. Will he be so compassionate? Now that you have returned to the company, you know the previous requirements. Learn to be smart and don't always let someone clean up your mess. When Chu Tianxuan didn't say this, Jiang Shener was still grateful to him. But listening to his tone of disgust really made Jiang Shener very unhappy. Sure enough, Chu Tianxuan is still Chu Tianxuan. He who speaks like this is his nature. Yes, President, can you look at such an expression? Jiang Shener just squeezed out a lovely smile. She remembered what she had just been reminded by Dawn not to confront Chu Tianxuan. The expression is okay. I mean, you should do things in your head. Don't really think of yourself as an idiot. Chu Tianxuan was still insinuating that Jiang Shener always made mistakes in her work before. If she didn't have too many things at home, she had to come back here first. She didn't want to serve him. I see. Does the president have anything else to say? Jiang Shener still suppressed his emotions. Now he can't offend Chu Tianxuan anymore. Not yet. How's your mother? Chu Tianxuan suddenly asked about her mother's situation, which also made Jiang Xian'er no longer. She just ended her competition with him. Her mother's situation was very bad, very bad. It's the end of cancer, so we can only hope for a miracle. The mention of her mother is the most sad place for her. She has raised her for so many years, but she can't help them at all. Chu Tianxuan wanted to comfort her, but he didn't know what to say. He is not the kind of warm man who can comfort people. He doesn't seem to have done anything good to her except bullying her. Just take good care of her. If you have anything you can come to, find Tianming. Chu Tianxuan wanted to say that he could come to him, but his awkward character didn't allow him to say so. Anyway, he had just used Tianming as a shield, and it was not bad this time. I see. I'll go to work first. Jiang Xian'er put away her sadness and was ready to concentrate on her work. She knew that what her mother needed most now was money. This time, Jiang Xian'er came back here only after she made up her mind. She did have many omissions in her work. After all, it was the first time to do such work. She only did so because she had no experience before. Now she has worked for a while and has some experience. Simple things can be completed by herself, which is perfect. Jiang Xian'er has made a lot of progress, but these are basic skills for everyone, so her slow progress is still too slow for the group. But for her who often makes mistakes, it can be said that she has changed. Tianming heard about it and specially said to Chu Tianxuan, she has made a lot of progress when she comes back this time. She will not only complete her work well, but also help others. She has a good character and can be cultivated. Chu Tianxuan's eyebrows were slightly piqued. I didn't expect this thin little girl to have such a side. It's good. He didn't waste his mind in vain. Tianming is stunned at Chu Tianxuan. Is he right? Did the president just laugh? Impossible. He immediately denied such an idea. The president is absolutely impossible to laugh. But who is Chu Tianxuan who just raised his mouth? It's really more and more difficult to understand the president's idea. Jiang Xian'er, bring me a cup of coffee. Chu Tianxuan suddenly wants to torture Jiang Xian'er. He wants to see how much patience Jiang Xian'er has. Jiang Xian'er listened to Chu Tianxuan's orders and immediately prepared. In order not to let Chu Tianxuan trouble her, she'd better be honest. President, your coffee. Jiang Xian's son sent it in with a good attitude. As soon as he put it down, he was ready to leave and was stopped by Chu Tianxuan. Wait a minute, there's something else. But not enough. Do you know how many people are coveting your position? If you don't show some strength, how can you make the people under your hand obey? I see. You're right. Jiang Xian'er did not continue to talk with Chu Tianxuan at all. She secretly greeted his ancestors many times, but the job was hard won. At present, she also needs this job to pay for expensive medical expenses. Have you finished translating? Bring it to me. Chu Tianxuan looked at the time. No matter how much time she had to work overtime, she was always worried about her mother. It was estimated that she should blow up again. But God didn't seem to want them to separate so quickly. The first half of the article was translated perfectly, but a few words suddenly appeared at the end to stimulate Chu Tianxuan. Capitalists, exploiters. As soon as these words came out, Chu Tianxuan directly threw the document on the ground. I asked you to work overtime. That's all you complain about, isn't it? Chu Tianxuan asked Jiang Xian'er angrily. Jiang Xian'er didn't know what he had made. He quickly picked up the document and looked at it. She was a little flustered. I don't know when I wrote down what I thought. When the boss heard this, he was looking for death. No, I didn't write it on purpose. Jiang Xianer apologized in a panic. Sorry, it's my fault. I'll fix it. Jiang Xianer's wronged eyes were red. He saw that it was late at night, but Chu Tianxuan had no sign of letting her go. But he made a mistake at this time. It was really wrong. I knew you wouldn't be so obedient. You really don't know what to do, Jiang Xianer. Chu Tianxuan looked at Jiang Xianer angrily. Fortunately, he found her because of sympathy. Jiang Xianer couldn't help listening to Chu Tianxuan's words. I'm really wrong. I'm willing to bear the consequences for my mistakes, but are you so targeted at me? He also said that if you are not a capitalist, you are a proper capitalist. You dare to talk back. You're getting bolder and bolder. Don't you know that there is overtime pay for overtime? Chu Tianxuan's words made Jiang Xianer lose all her momentum. How could she forget that there was still such a thing? How much is overtime? Many? Jiang Xianer quickly asked. If she could earn more money by working overtime, she was willing to work overtime all the time. Others have, you don't. Chu Tianxuan poured a basin of cold water on her head. This impact really made Jiang Xianer unable to accept it. Capitalists, stingy. Jiang Xianer stared at Chu Tianxuan, his eyes as round as a goldfish. How dare you say? Do you still want to be dismissed? Chu Tianxuan's voice was a little cold. Why is this woman not afraid of him at all? What will you do except threaten people with this? Childish. Jiang Xianer disdained to say that the boss of a group bullied one of her small employees. It was his Chu Tianxuan, not her, who was ashamed. Jiang Xianer, don't look for death. Chu Tianxuan is really angry with this woman. She is so unkind to help her. You started the war first. Why is it my fault? Boss, can you let me go? The information has been changed. Please have a look. Jiang Xianer didn't want to pester him anymore. He just came to torture her when he was unhappy at work. Chu Tianxuan glanced at the document casually. In fact, he didn't care whether the translation was right or wrong. He just wanted to embarrass her. Work in my office from tomorrow so that I can call you at any time. I'll teach you how a secretary should look. I hope you won't let me down. Chu Tianxuan's words are basically warning Jiang Xianer. She knows that it will be difficult tomorrow.